You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, the end is near.
Well, here we go, another rockin' awesome Saturday night, and my goodness, we have an awful lot to talk about. A lot going on in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and we'll be speaking up and talking about it tonight. Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to the Six Screens Telenetwork. Wow, you're on the JW World News program. Of course, that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we're doing it here tonight. And I'm coming to you. My name's Rick Farron, and I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. Friends, it is definitely the epicenter of apostasy. Wow, it's so amazing. I tell you, every week I'm happy. I'm very, very happy. We're seeing more and more Jehovah's Witnesses leaving the organization. We get more and more PMOs. Those are people that have left. They've had enough. They're physically out. They're mentally out. We call them PMOs. And then also we have PMEs. Physically in, mentally out. Maybe I got that. I'm sorry. Maybe we got that wrong, do we? I'm sorry. I always get those mixed up. But let's see. Let's see. A PME would be one that's physically in and mentally in. Yeah, PME is one that's still in there. But a PMO, that is one. Let me get it right here for you. That is one that is physically in, mentally out. All right, there we go. We used to call them, looking years ago before all these acronyms came up, we used to just say that if a person was looking for the exit door at the Kingdom Hall, well, they would be called, they were in the conscious class. They were beginning to wake up. So that's what a PMO is today, one that's beginning to wake up. They're just going through the actions of being a Jehovah's Witness in a perfunctory way. They really don't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but they know what happens when you leave, right? As many listening to this program know. Well, I hope you're having a good day. Boy, we are coming into summer up here. The leaves are all out. It's a beautiful spring. We got the leaves, the tulips, the flowers. New England's beautiful here in the springtime. In fact, we have all beautiful seasons. So I hope it's nice where you are. Now, just to bring you up to speed, there's, we talked a while back, a month or so ago, about an Illinois elder case where they were not reporting child sexual abuse to the authorities. And you guys probably remember that. Well, today I got information, actually this week, information that's even more disturbing. And I'm going to bring you up to speed on it just to kind of refresh your memory. But convicted Jehovah's Witness elder Michael Pencava, well, he was an older man. I believe he was 83. He was an elder in the Crystal Lake Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses in Illinois. Michael Pencava got sentenced today, this week. He got sentenced to community service. Now, he was deliberately hiding sexual abuse in his congregation, Crystal Lake. He and another elder, Collins, were deliberately hiding sexual abuse to the authorities. They were told not to report it. The Watchtower told them not to report it. So anyways, they were sentenced. And we talked about that sentence a few weeks ago. I think the sentence was light. They didn't get any prison time. They got diddly squat. They got basically nothing. You could get more for running a red light here in Massachusetts than what these guys got, according to the court in Illinois. I don't know what's going on with the courts, but it must have been very, very liberal. But let me just tell you this. Mark O'Donnell, and of course we know him. That's his real name. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness. He went by the pseudonym of John Redwood. And he was associated with John Cedars, Lloyd Evans, but, he distanced himself. He's no longer associated with him. But he's a great witness. He does a great job reporting, and he reports some of these sex, child abuse cases in the Watchtower. He does a fantastic job. But just to let you know what he was reporting on this week, the elders were convicted of covering up child molestation, and a sentence came down. The sentencing came down this week. And what do you think they got? Well, there's no jail time. They were sentenced to community service. Now, this Pencava elder, the older one, guess where his community service was to take place? You guessed it, the Kingdom Hall. Can you imagine that? So they sentenced Pencava to community work, and he had to clean the Kingdom Hall. Big deal. That's nothing. Boy, I can't believe it. I mean, the judge isn't happy. The prosecution team isn't happy. The public isn't happy. And more importantly, the survivors of sexual child abuse, they're angered that the court gave this sentence of cleaning a Kingdom Hall. That is absolutely over the top. I couldn't believe it when I got this information. But on April 19th, Michael Pencava, now he's the elder, I believe he's 83, so he's an older man. So he turned out to work. He had turned out to work. I had to go to the probation office and get his duty. And sure enough, he was to clean the Kingdom Hall. That was his sentence. So that is kind of terrible, isn't it? Especially, I'm going to tell you why and what happened in that Crystal Lake congregation. It's going to really upset you, because it upset me when I was reading this. It's unbelievable. The essential elements, well, let's go along with this. Pencava and his fellow elder, J.W. Elder Colin Scott, was convicted of a Class A misdemeanor on March 18th for failing to report child abuse going all the way back to 2006. So Pencava's defense actually lasted over a year and a half. The courts went through all of this, and finally, like I say, they did sentence Pencava to cleaning the Kingdom Hall. I mean, what kind of a sentence is that? But Pencava and his fellow elders, they ignored the Illinois law under instructions from Jehovah's Witness headquarters. They opted out to handle the abuse cases and allegations internally. So they called the Watchtower. What are we going to do? Do we report them to the authorities? No, don't do it. Some lawyer at Watchtower or whoever this man was told them, just let it go. Let it be handled internally. So these two men let it be handled internally. So the thing is that these, they're calling it here in the newspaper allegations. These sex abuse allegations, as it's being called, were not really allegations at all. It was a confession that this actually, the man who committed the atrocity, the man who actually did the molestation, he did it on his own daughter. His name was Brother Arturo Hernandez Pendraza. Arturo Hernandez Pendrara. Well, he actually admitted to molesting his daughter at least 6 or 7 times during 2006 when she was barely 7 years old. This is incest, friends. This is incest. This is a bad thing. It's to be reported. So he did this back in 2006, and the Crystal Lake, Illinois Spanish Congregation elders formed a committee, and they decided that they would let Pencava, Brother Pencava, they decided they wouldn't disfellowship him because he was repentant. He was sorry for what he did to his daughter. Instead, all the Jehovah's Witnesses did in that judicial committee hearing, all they did was he was publicly reproved and sent right back to his home with his wife and children. Can you imagine that? You're molesting your daughter, having an incestuous relationship, and the elders in that committee, they said he was repentant, so we're not going to do anything. We'll send him back home and forget about it. Well, the sexual abuse stopped for about a month after Pencava went home and was let loose from the judicial committee. And then after a month, it immediately resumed. The sexual abuse resumed for the next 12 years, with the abuser threatening the child and her family with harm or death if she revealed what he was doing. Well, that's what these predators do. You know, they're going to kill the cat. They're going to kill your mother, your father. So the victim, they're not going to speak up. And then Pencava, the father who was doing this atrocious thing, he became so brazen in his conduct that by the time his daughter was in her upper teens, he was still doing this. He was still having sex, abusing his daughter in her upper teens, upwards of 18 years old. And he would take it to Walgreens. Yes, he would take it to Walgreens, a local drugstore, where he coerced her into taking pregnancy tests. And this guy just let him go home to his wife and family. And now he's he's in jail. He is in jail. Pencava's in jail. But the brother Pencava, he deserved to go to jail. But the other brothers that we talked about in the beginning, they're not in jail. Michael Pencava and Colin Scott, they were elders that just allowed this to happen and said nothing. So Illinois, took them in, prosecuted them in court, and they let them go. And they only have to serve community duty. And Pencava gets to clean the Kingdom Hall. But let's go back to the brazen conduct here of Pencava, the guy that committed the act against his daughter. On her 19th birthday, the daughter, the victim, came forward to police, and her father was arrested and put on trial in 2019, found guilty and sentenced to 45 years in prison in Illinois. So he's in prison right now. And later that year, November 9th, 2020, Michael Pencava was arrested for violation of Illinois mandatory reporting statute. So you can see how this thing all unwound. The case took a year and a half to even settle here. But, I'm just thinking with Pencava being sentenced to go to the Kingdom Hall and perform community service, I can just see he picked up a broom and swept the floors at the Kingdom Hall, just as he swept the sexual abuse of a little girl under the rug. Boy, can you imagine that? I'm thinking this guy should have got way more. He should have, at the very least, been put in an orange jumpsuit with big letters screen printed on the back of the jumpsuit, jw.org. I would feel better if that's what happened. And he was put out on the highway to pick up trash like other community service prisoners do. But no, he got to clean the Kingdom Hall. That's nothing. That's nothing. And what is clean the Kingdom Hall? That's a sentence? Well, I think the sentence could have been worse for Pencava if he was actually sentenced to field service. that would have been worse, right? I mean, he only got 10 hours. He only got 10 hours of community service. Geez, he could do that in a week, going down sweeping the driveway at the Kingdom Hall, right? Really, there's people who get tickets for, turning right on a red without coming to a complete stop. And they get community service. And especially out in California, they're really tough. You could get a $600 ticket for doing that. and pay $75 administration fee and do 24 hours of community service. Never mind 10 hours. But let me just tell you here why I'm upset. It boils my blood. It boils my blood. Someone's being paid off. I think the Watchtower is throwing a lot of money around under the table. Let's go with that. But here's something even I want to bring up. Pencava, the elder who covered up the sexual child abuse, he was an educated man. He was a teacher for most of his career, and he was trained by the school system to be a mandatory reporter. So he was well aware of the importance of that responsibility. So, so now he comes across this girl who's reporting her father as a molester. Pencava and his fellow elder know that he is a molester, the father. So they don't say a thing. So they call the Watchtower, and they're told not to report it. That's what the Watchtower told them not to do. So I think this is really a sad case. And, I thought it was sad when he didn't get any jail time. But it's even more sad that his sentence is 10 hours of community service. And where is he scheduled to go to work for community service? The very Kingdom Hall that I guess this all happened in. That is pretty obscene, isn't it? That is terrible. Well, what do you guys think? Did you think that?
I think
yeah, go ahead.
I think he's, as an elder, he's probably just going to have a ministerial servant do the cleaning for him.
Well, Randy, you're probably right with that. But I'll tell you what, these are the type stories we've been reading here on JW World News. This is just appalling. It really is when you stop and think about it. Well, don't you think that he should have got jail time? Think about it. Think about it. If you like
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Yeah,
Rick?
Steve. It's Steve. In regard to what you just said, that's absolutely true. I mean, any one of us can get a traffic ticket, and the fine's going to be much heavier. You owe the IRS $5. You see how far you get owing the IRS $5. And not only that, when you look at the big picture, you look at all the to-do about the Australian Royal Commission. All of this was testified. This was brought out under testimony, and all these things. Nothing's been done. It was all a big show. Nothing's been done. And I forgot how many hundreds or thousands of people came forth for the Australian Royal Commission, and nothing gets done. Yeah, they're absolutely paying tons of people off. It was a big fanfare, and nothing will come of it because they're a criminal organization. They operate as a criminal organization. They take care of lawyers and judges and everything else. And anybody that stops and says, oh, I don't know why they do this. This is in accord with Jehovah. They're not a religion. They're a criminal organization. They are invested in real estate and many other investments and sources of income. That's all they are. And why anyone ever says, well, the Bible says this, the Bible doesn't mean a damn thing to these people or anybody else. And why it's even brought up, if you understand who you're dealing with, then it's not an issue. It's not a mystery. And when someone says, it drives me nuts when someone says, well, I don't know why they do that, because the Bible said this and they taught and they teach that. It's only for show. Forget that. That's the front. That's the dressing in the window. It means nothing. It's a corrupt, demonic, pedophile organization behind the scenes. And that's all it is for money and business.
You're right, Steve. You're absolutely right. Well, thank you for chiming in here. Always good to hear from you. All right. I believe we've got someone else who wants to come in. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, their justice system, their fairness is so out of whack, it's almost unbelievable. Matter of fact, it is unbelievable. I am an adulterer. I cheated on a good woman, and I should never have done it, but I did. And I confessed to the elders, and I confessed to my wife. They still disfellowship me. They still did it. And they're going to let a pedophile go he didn't confess to being a pedophile. He got caught evidently, I mean, their system of justice, well, I guess it's controlled by Satan the devil. That's why it's so unfair. Thanks, Rick.
Well, Dick, that's an excellent comment. And yes, indeed, you had to live with the embarrassment of it all, being disfellowshipped, sitting in the back of the Kingdom Hall, nobody talking to you, even your wife and your two sons couldn't sit with you. And here's this guy in a judicial committee hearing confessing, no, not an allegation here, friends, confessing that he was doing this. They slapped him on the hand and said, go home and don't do it again. That is disgusting. And Dick, that's why you're out of it. That's why I'm out of it. That's why so many people are coming to grips with the horrendous problems this organization is causing for people. So this guy's an incestuous father having relations with his daughter until she was about 18 years old, running to the drugstore when she's about 18 to make sure she's not pregnant, taking a pregnancy test. And then we have two elders that hide this man. They're just as culpable. They really are. And at the same time, they get sentenced to cleaning the Kingdom Hall. So I'm thinking the Watchtower here is getting free labor out of this guy because he followed their orders and putting children in danger. This is absurd. This is totally absurd. Well, you're on the 6 screens, JW World News. You want to say something? Go ahead. You're with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Rick, it's Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
Yeah. On behalf of the state of Illinois, I just want to apologize to everyone because that's where I'm at. And this is the part that's probably going to outrage you. When he was sentenced to that community service in the state of Illinois, you get to choose where you do your community service. All that's required is that they give you a letter stating the amount of hours you've completed on their company letterhead. So if this guy's an elder, all he had to do was grab some of the company letterhead and write up his own letter saying he's completed X amount of hours, and all he's got to do is turn it in. No one has to sign off on it or anything because he's the head guy. He's one of the elders. Isn't that pathetic?
Yeah, it is pathetic. I didn't know that. That is pathetic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, also, there's going to be some changes, I think, with the Watchtower in Nigeria. I don't know if you've heard about what happened in Nigeria this week or not.
Oh, fill me in.
They passed a new law in Nigeria, and anyone who is convicted of rape will be surgically castrated. Anyone who rapes a child will face the death penalty in Nigeria.
Good. I like that kind of a law.
Yep.
Good for them.
I wish we could have that in Illinois.
Well, it certainly would be good. I know one thing. See, it's payola, Chad. That's what I'm thinking here. Money talks in America. The Western world, it's all corrupt. And in the money talks, the person with the money can cover all kinds of stuff up. And I know Watchtower had to do this because this is not sensible from any point of justice. This is not a sensible rendering. But it goes further than that. It goes, how do they get all these permits to build these buildings when there's obvious problems? As I went up and tried to stop or at least give my thoughts about the building of the big mega studio. Yeah, they don't want to listen to me. I mean, somebody's got to be paying these guys off. So thank you, Chad. Thank you for checking in with us. But money corrupts.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, go ahead.
I like your slogan, Rick. I like your slogan. You need a button that says, ask me why I left.
Yeah, well, it's a good button. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's Chewy.
Yeah,
I was
Chewy.
just wondering about that elder that's serving the time at the Kingdom Hall. I wonder if he gives a public talk, can he count 30 minutes on that? Or what?
Well, yeah, that's interesting you say that. But I was thinking a worse sentence, as I mentioned earlier, would have been make him go out in service. That's even a worse sentence.
Well, and wear a shirt that says, I'm a pedophile. I hide pedophiles. Here's the Watchtower.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of putting him in an orange jumpsuit, like I say, and screen printing on the back of that jumpsuit, jw.org, and put him out on the highway picking up junk, you know?
That's it. That's it. I hide pedophiles.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah.
My head is spinning from the fact that you noted that he was an educator and knew the law of having to report such behavior from such persons.
Yes,
Right.
Pixie, that makes it even worse. I could see if he was some, lame person that wasn't
A
aware.
window washer, but
Yeah.
he wasn't.
No, he's an educator, like you say. Well, thank you.
But the good thing that comes out of that whole thing is that it will set a precedent. Those dudes that are like 45 and 55 years old, they'll get treated a little bit differently. The only reason they got off is because they're elderly.
Yeah, it might be the reason. I know Pencava, like I say, he was the older one. He was, like I say, in his 80s. I believe he was 83. And, that's old, but still, if you do the crime, you pay the time, as the saying goes. And the other fella, Colin Scott, he looked younger. I don't know how old he was, but in the pictures, he looks to be.
He was in his 70s.
In his 70s? Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a picture up so people can see them here. Let me do this right now. How do I? Okay. I'm gonna put a picture up on Facebook and YouTube. I want you guys to be able to see to see a picture. So let's do that right now. And you guys can see here's the two people right there. There he is, the older one with the lighter color mask on. That's Pencava, and the other one is Colin Scott. But like I say, Pencava is about 83. The other looks to be like probably in his 60s. But either way, it doesn't matter. They did the crime. They should do the time. Well, thank you guys for checking in. Thank you for checking in and bringing that story up. It's a good story, and it really shows us how evil the Watchtower organization is. Well, let's take a look. Let's see what else we get going here tonight on a Saturday night in the Watchtower. Let's take a look at announcements and reminders. Boy, I'll tell you what, this guy he goes by the fictitious name of Atlantis. And I want to thank him if he's listening in here tonight. I know Atlantis is a pretty high official. I'm not sure what capacity he works in at the Watchtower, but he has privy to all of the announcements and the reminders that the Jehovah's Witnesses hear every month, sometimes twice a month, sometimes 3 or 4 times a month. And he has privy to these announcements, and he sends them to me. But I'm not special. He sends them to other people too. He sends them to Mike and Kimmy, and I'm sure others. But I want to thank him. Thank you very much, Atlantis. And I'm sure he wants us to be able to read his announcements here on JW World News. But anyways, these are announcements. Do you remember when you were going to the meeting, when you were one of those goody two-shoes Jehovah's Witnesses, and you love to hear the announcements and the reminders, right? You'd sit there and suck it all up, right? Well, this is what they are. They would read them during the service meeting, and I'm going to read you one here. I want you to hear what it's all about. Let's start right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it. I'll look through it quickly. I'll keep some, dump the other. But basically, it's the date on this announcement is May 5th. So that wasn't too long ago, right? But anyways, they probably already had this one read by now. But I'll tell you what they're talking about. And they're talking, first of all, this is for the elders, and it's communication during a disaster. Now, the Watchtower lately is talking about a lot of disasters, folks. I'm going to tell you that right now. They seem to really have this fetish for disasters and disaster relief because it's a money generator. But anyways, it says, please review the directions in the Shepherd book, chapter 26, which outlines the channel of communication when a disaster strikes. Now, this is something of interest here. I found this interesting. There is an ongoing need for suitable accommodation that may be made available for fellow believers displaced by disasters, for those involved in the building and construction work. mostly that's it, believe me. The construction workers working free labor for the Watchtower, they'll get rooms from some of the kind-hearted publishers without a problem. But as far as witnesses getting room, that's another story. But they're saying they would. So it says publishers in your congregation may own property or have spare rooms they would be happy to make available to fill such needs. We would be grateful for your assistance with compiling this information. Any publisher volunteering accommodation for temporary use by the organization must be in good standing. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Watchtower doesn't want somebody who's on the, building one of their buildings or someone that's been displaced to go to the home of an apostate, right? I mean, heaven forbid. So they have to be in good standing. And that's kind of a nebulous term, isn't it? How do you define good standing? I mean, it could go in many different directions, but according to the Watch, there's no definition of what good standing is. But I guess all of us who were loyal witnesses know what that term means, good standing. Now it says, while you may not have visited the accommodation the publisher is offering, he should have a reputation for keeping his home clean and in a suitable standard. Well, I think that's okay. It looks like the Watchtower is getting the Airbnb business, the getting room business, so to speak, Airbnb. So anyways, we've got suitable standards have to be there. He should also have completed a notice of consent. He had to at least, there's a notice of consent. I get in, I tried to fill it out, but I got halfway through it and the Watchtower wanted me to give him a password. I was going to make up, some crazy thing and see if I could get some Jehovah's Witnesses to come stay with me.
At least they're asking for consent. They tried to move this one sister in here when my mom was still alive. I said, absolutely no. And I had to say no 3 times to them.
Yeah.
And we didn't have much room here, one little tiny extra room that I use as a pantry.
Yeah, well, that's what they do, Pixie. I mean, I tried to fill the form out. I got through about 4 pages. I put my name, I put my address, all of this stuff. But then they wanted a password. But I was hoping that maybe I could get a witness or 2 to come live with me for a while. I could give them an earful,
That'd be great. That would be a TV show.
It would be. But you had to have a password to get in. But that would have been nice, So anyways, it says, if a publisher qualifies, the secretary or another elder assigned by body should promptly comply. That's of no interest to us. So anyways, you got that part of it, right? So if you have a spare home, spare room in your house, well, let the Watchtower use it for displaced witnesses. I don't think they're going to get many displaced witnesses, even though there's many right now. A lot of people could use a room somewhere, but no, they're looking more, I'm sure, for people who are building their buildings. Let's take a look here. Let me just make sure. There's a number of pages here, so I don't have time to read it all to you, but I'm going to read more here. All right, so that's that. There's more here as well, so let me go to the next page. And I found some of this a little interesting. This comes as a little interesting. They're talking about public talks now that they're going back to the meetings. When in-person meetings are held at the Kingdom Hall, it is preferred that those delivering public talks be physically present at the Kingdom Hall. Well, I understand that. I mean, if you're going to give a public talk, go to the lectern and give it. However, if the Kingdom Hall is equipped to hold hybrid meetings, well, you know what a hybrid meeting is, right? That's where you can meet in person, and they also have the cameras and the equipment to go on the Zoom meetings. So some congregations go both ways. So if you have a Kingdom Hall congregation where there's hybrid meetings, it says you still want to make sure that the public talk can be given in person. But occasionally, it says occasionally, you might want to use a person speaking on a video conference through Zoom. All right, not too much there. Let's skim down a little bit. Hybrid meetings. Okay, let's go over here. I found this really fascinating. This is what really got my attention. Let me just move down here and get to it. Uh, Emergency contact information. The Watchtower is really going out of its way to make sure the witnesses are filling out these forms, where they live, their email, their telephone, relatives they could contact in case of an emergency, even if the relatives aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, that's kind of a first. So they said, give us even the name of relatives that aren't witnesses in case something happens to you. Friends, this is all, I think it's a scare tactic. I'm really thinking it's a scare tactic. They're doing everything they can to make you scared to death if you want a Jehovah's Witness. They keep talking about, all of these disasters that's going to take place. The disaster relief people are there. They're showing these bunker videos. They're talking about persecution coming. Really, for the last couple of years, they're making they're making the witnesses a nervous wreck. It also says here as well that there is going to be a delay in printing the public magazines. Now, it's saying here that the public magazines are going to be delayed. Now, it doesn't give a reason why. If it was a shortage of paper or a shortage of ink or something, you would think the Watchtower would be forthright and say, because of the shortages taking place right now in getting products, the supply chain is messed up, so we can't get paper, we can't get ink, so we can't print the magazine. But they're not saying that. They're just saying there's going to be a delay in printing the public magazines. Now, listen, I always look under every corner, every nook and cranny, so to speak. I think this is a ploy by the Watchtower. And we know they've been moving more and more toward you printing your own magazines. So I'm thinking this could be a ploy, and they're going to take advantage of, right now what's going on in America and around the world with supply chain shortages, but they're not mentioning it. Don't you think they'd mention it if that was the problem? Just a thought. I mean, nothing really to think too much about there, but I thought about it. Now here's the part of the letter that really got me thinking. Here's the part of the letter that I have to really. I'm going to read this to you. You're going to find this really, really startling. It says, read this information to be read to the congregation during the part, are you prepared to face civil unrest? Let me read that to you again. Are you prepared to face civil unrest? This is a letter they want read to the Jehovah's Witness congregation. It says, during a disaster, but especially during events such as war or civil unrest, please be very careful when sending or receiving personal messages that contain photos, videos, or experiences about our brothers. Bear in mind that it might be difficult to verify the accuracy of such informal reports. Please be aware that pictures or videos could contain location information, which could put our brothers and sisters in danger. Continue to rely on JW News section of jw.org, which is one tool that the faithful and discreet slave uses to dispense accurate information to the brotherhood at the right time. Well, let me stop there for a second. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this, and I'm gonna stand pretty firm on this. What they're doing here is they're really trying to create this, hey, Armageddon's coming. We're gonna have civil unrest. I mean, they're showing these videos, like I just said, of bunkers, stormtroopers barging in, breaking Kingdom Hall doors down. They got the witnesses paranoid, but paranoia works. Paranoia works for the Jehovah's Witnesses. It scares them to stay close to Jehovah, which is close to the organization. So now here's something too in this same letter talking about preparing the congregation for civil unrest. The next paragraph, it says, occasionally it has been noted that well-intentioned brothers. Now, I want you to listen to this closely. I'd like to get what you think because I'm going to give my spin, but I'd like to get your spin. Listen closely to the paragraph. Occasionally, it has been noted that well-intended brothers who live outside the area of a disaster solicit funds for those in need or for disaster relief. However, these efforts may actually result in a disruption of the work of the brothers appointed to coordinate relief efforts. It may result in a duplication of effort and expense. If you wish, now here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. If you wish to contribute financially to help our brothers being affected by disasters around the world, please donate directly to the worldwide work. I'm going to give you my spin. I'm sorry, I have to do it because this really irritated me, as they have constantly irritated me. It's all about money for the Watchtower. Now think about this. So they're saying here that, there are brothers and sisters, because of even the economic conditions that are falling through the cracks, they don't have anywhere to live. They need help. They need money. They need a home. They need somewhere to live. A lot of the witnesses are having serious financial trouble. And also they're saying that disaster relief people have trouble too, and they need funds. But they're saying some congregations are working outside of the Watchtower, and they're trying to put money together for some of these people they may even know. Maybe there's a witness that has a friend that lost her house or whatever the reason would be. So they're trying to get money together collectively as a little group or even a large group. But the Watchtower is going, no, don't do that. So they don't want you getting, 100 witnesses, and everyone puts, $10 in the kitty. Well, what do you think they'll end up with? There's $1,000. You go to the sister or brother having the trouble. You say, here's $1,000, sister. We want you to have this. So, oh no, don't do that. No, don't do that. It might interfere with our work. The people who are involved in putting this all together, it might duplicate things and make things messy. Yes.
Chad, again, I just thought you should know that when they say just to give to the worldwide work, because of their, we talked about the 501 tax exemption and the charity giving and stuff in my program a little bit ago.
Yeah.
I think you should know, if you're donating that money and you're not donating it for a very specific cause, they can spend it however they want. So if they say donate it to the worldwide work and you donate it to that, they can spend it however they want. If they have something that says, donate to this specific thing, that money has to be spent on that one specific thing legally. But because the way they're set up with their tax exemption, if you just donate it to a worldwide work, they can spend it however they want, and they can advertise for donations however they want. They don't have to keep their word at all.
Well, good comment, Chad. Thank you for commenting on that. And I know you're absolutely dead on with that. And now the next paragraph, after they talk about, don't get together and get money on your own, make sure it goes to the worldwide work. So now they want to diffuse your thinking. See, this is critical writing. And if you guys remember the professor that used to be on a few years ago, he studied the Watchtower. He's a university professor in New York, and he studied the critical writing of the Watchtower. So he taught me something. I'm noticing this. So they have this paragraph here. They're talking about, send the money to the worldwide work. And then the very next paragraph, they're diffusing, they don't want people to think about it. So they now switch from money, actual cash, to spiritual food. It says now, the next paragraph, after they say, send the money here, So now they say during a disaster, it may be difficult to access spiritual food. Therefore, please plan ahead for how your family will be supplied with spiritual food. Who, in goodness name's sakes, your house, the roof on your house has been torn apart. Your neighborhood has been just devastated. People are missing. And now they're focusing their attention. Make sure you have your spiritual food when disaster hits. That's the last thing you're going to be thinking about is spiritual food, right? I mean, you might pray to Jehovah, but you're not going to be trying to find Watchtower and Awake magazines to get spiritual information from them. So these efforts may actually result in I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong paragraph, but it says some have prepared to have access to theocratic publications and videos, even if the electricity or internet is disrupted. So,
Now that's funny.
yeah,
That's funny because if you got a power outage, you're not going to be watching anything. And it reminds me of the news crews that gave bottles of water in Katrina, and one cameraman took off his shoes and gave them to a man that needed to flee. So when it comes down to it, we're not going to be watching JW.org.
Pixie, you're absolutely right. But these guys, I'm reading this. It's so it's filled with ambiguous thoughts. It's filled with nonsense. Like you just noticed, how are you going to be watching JW videos and what have you? I mean, who's going to be interested in this anyways? When your neighborhood is disrupted by a tornado or a storm, or if you just lost your house or were evicted, you're not going to be interested in reading Watchtower and playing Watchtower videos, are you? I don't think so. Now notice this. This I also have a little hard time with. Look at, friends, I'm not here trying to pick on the Watchtower every Saturday night, but they deserve to be picked on. Somebody's got to pick on them because this is just nutty stuff they keep coming out with. Now, notice this. If there is a need to host displaced brothers because of a disaster, the family head of each household desiring to take part should consider the COVID-19 risks, especially if any of his household are elderly or having underlying health conditions. Family heads of displaced families should consider these same risks. Well, I might be jumping the gun here a little bit, but I have a story coming up on people going back to the meeting, and many witnesses are saying, well, pay no attention to COVID anymore. The Watchtower opened the Kingdom Halls up, so don't even pay attention to it because Jehovah is helping us. Jehovah is going to make us not get COVID. So in this paragraph here, they're saying if you're going to take a family in, I mean, can you imagine if family shows up at your door, their house was just destroyed by a hurricane, maybe they got evicted, they got a family of 4 or 5, they got little kids, they got no food, and they're knocking on your door. Brother Smith, could you please let us in? We have no place to go. We have no food to eat. Could you please help us? Does anybody in your family have COVID? Do you have your masks? Have you been around anybody that's had COVID? I mean, you're going to ask questions like that. I mean, how foolish, how foolish. So just saying, I'm not trying to over embellish this, but I really see that they are really ramping up this emergency coming upon the witnesses, and be ready for civil unrest, be ready for a disaster. And they're really saying here now that to make sure all of your emergency contact information is up to date. Make sure that, somebody can find you if you ever go missing. This is nothing else but to scare the living daylights out of the witnesses and make them totally, totally paranoid. So there you have it. So the last part of the letter, the last page, it talks about it talks about Bethel Service. Well, with everything else going on, with brothers and sisters preparing for the worst, and with Armageddon right around the corner, They're still asking for people, baptized Christians 19 years of age or older, who desire to pursue Bethel Service or assist with theocratic construction projects on a part-time or full-time basis should speak to their congregation secretary to receive further instructions on submitting an application. Friends, let me just tell you something here. This isn't like the old Bethel. Some of you brothers and sisters even listening may have been Bethelites, but let me tell you something. This is not your grandfather's Bethel anymore. Now, when they're asking people to come there, it doesn't state it in this letter, but they're looking for commuting Bethelites. Well, you say, well, what is that? Well, that means you go up there on your own dime. You work for them. You live outside of the Watchtower. You live in a little apartment. And, you have to have a few bucks to begin with, right? So you live in a little apartment. You work for them, or maybe you get a little part-time job, but you commute. You go back and forth. They don't want you there. They don't want to take on more responsibility. It's going to cost them money. They don't want you living there with them. You live outside. That's what's going on here. So don't anybody out there think they want to fill out an application to become a Bethelite. If you do, you better have a lot of money in the bank because you're going to need it. So anyways, that's the letter. A lot of stuff in there, right? A lot of information to go through. So what do you think? Do you really think that this idea of constantly warning the people about civil unrest and national disasters, they didn't do that when I was a witness? That never happened with me. I never heard anything like that. As a matter of fact, I often think about how they never wanted to tell you about any disasters at all. And if there was a disaster, was, come to the Kingdom Hall the next day. But now they're kind of preparing people. But this is another way to, like I say, scare people into the fact, gee, we better stay close to the organization. I think you guys are pretty much on board with me. I don't think there's many that disagree with me. If there are, I'd like to hear the other side of the story.
It's important to have extra water, and the government has little sheets of what to have in your house. But the most important thing is that water. And if a true Armageddon were to happen, you take the Sharpie and you write your Social Security on your arm so they can claim your dead self.
Well, yeah, might be
Sad,
right.
but true.
Well, it might be true with that one, Pixie. And, on the go bags, we talked about this before. They've been preparing the witnesses to get ready for something. Make sure you have your go bags packed and make sure they're ready.
That's a good idea.
Oh, yeah, no, go bags. I wouldn't say that's a bad idea. I think everyone should have a go bag. But I mean, they've really been pushing it in the witness world. So I was wondering, well, what is in a go bag? What would they tell you to put in a go bag? And of course, they wanted you to put a flashlight and batteries. I mean, we should all do that anyways. They wanted you to put some food in there, maybe like canned food, maybe a couple of cans of tuna fish, something like that can last for a while. And even some food, you might even, see these companies that sell survival food. So you can put that in there. But
have a couple waters in there.
Yeah, put some water in
there.
Have
your car keys in there.
Yeah, put stuff in
there.
Maybe
have some kind of mat that you can sit on if you have to be in a shelter of some type.
Yeah. In fact, I was in contact with a Bethelite, and I asked him, what are the Jehovah's Witnesses putting in these go bags? Well, what are they putting in there? And of course, they mentioned all of these things and other things. But then he said they're also encouraging you to put one of those small little, it's not a fishing rod, but it's like a little, piece of wood with string wrapped around it with a hook, like a little fishing.
Oh, that's a good idea.
A fishing hook. So, but I can't imagine, Pixie, Jehovah's Witnesses, they wouldn't even know how to put a worm on a hook. I mean, I know you do. I mean, there's no question about that.
I do.
but I mean, I'm just thinking.
Hey, I heard they don't want people fishing in Maine right now. Is that true?
I don't know. I haven't heard about that. Is that right?
These food shortages, it was a story today. They said they have discouraged fishing in some places right at a time when people's budgets are not as good.
Well, listen, this is something going on out here. They're trying to deliberately start food shortages or something. But I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah. Can you imagine, Pixie, a Jehovah's Witness going fishing? I mean, they'd feel like we shouldn't kill a fish. Jehovah won't like it. I mean, I don't know what they would feel, but I know how they are. See, I know how they are. So it's amazing to me. It's amazing. So
Well, my dad was a Zen master when cleaning fish. It was a beautiful thing to watch him do it.
oh yeah, no, fish good. Fresh fish are delicious. I loved to fish when I was a kid. I used to go fishing all the time. Oh yeah, go ahead. Come on in, sir.
Hey, Rick, I was just going to say that, I don't want to use the Watchtower terminology, but, this is the sign of the times for the Watchtower sinking ship, because you don't go to these extreme levels like you're talking about and say catastrophe ahead, prepare. You don't scare people. In fact, if a captain's on a ship, he doesn't tell the people how bad it is. He stays focused on the waves coming in. He keeps the thing steady so he can hit the wave right on, but he doesn't panic the rest of the crew. That's what gives away these pieces of shit. They scaring the hell out of the crew, and you don't do that. As a leader in any military or combat, you're more about we're going to get through, not about the catastrophe ahead. And like you said, all this stuff about houses being burned up and this and that, and be ready to flee the mountains and, be ready, big times ahead. It shows the level of, what would I call it? The level of propaganda they need to reel these people back in. But I got to tell you something, it is not working. And we got a lady coming on the show tonight, and she said this. This is why I put CNN in the Watchtower. She said this, Rick. She said the updates were worse than CNN. She's just out. She's a young girl. She's 20-some years old. She said the updates from Watchtower were worse than CNN. She said it was a disgrace. It was a joke. And she said my little brain just started thinking and started cracking and said, who are these crazy guys that are scaring us to death? Just like those guys we saw with the mask. We haven't seen each other in 2 years. What captain tells people when they go into the Vietnam War, 90% of you are going to die? If you don't do this and do that, they don't terrify the people. They're leaders. They're people that, are a shadow to get under. They're somebody to get under, like the Bible says. You get out from the weather when you go see the leaders. You find shelter from the storm, but they don't. They actually imagine, put the people in their minds in the midst of the storm and say, what are you going to do? And then they tell you, we're the channel, stay tuned to us or else. So you're right, Rick. It's a sign of the times for Watchtower. The reason they're having to go to this level is because they need to. And to us outside, it sounds foolish. It sounds crazy that they would use these tactics, but these are tactics of desperate people. Rick, you agree with me?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. It is. There's an old saying, Dan, you've heard it before, I'm sure. Most everyone on this program listening in have. See, what they do is the Watchtower causes the problem, and then they solve the problem. So they're the
Problem,
ones.
reaction, solution.
Yeah.
Hegel.
Yeah.
The whole notion.
Yeah.
Problem, reaction.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why they say America always has a war on something. Watchtower always has a war on something. And I really believe this, Rick. Nobody has to agree, but I believe that they have people out there 24/7 looking for earthquakes, looking for floods, looking for whatever bad news they can find. And now they're putting it all out there. Instead of saying the earthquake over there, they're talking about the east and the west, the north and the south, the Great War, the typhoons, they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink in to try to hold people in there with the same dope, the dope of fear that they have used for years. And I want to say this, shame on Watchtower. Shame on you, Watchtower. They're slave owners.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Hey,
Rick.
I'd like to chime in.
And they're not teaching their people to can peaches or have any skills or anything. The Seventh-day Adventists and the Mormons have literal coursework to teach their people to budget for their kitchens and things.
There you go, Pixie. Listen, we got some more people coming in. Go ahead. We got 2 or 3 more want to come in. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Hey, this is Chewy. Real quick.
Go ahead, Chewy. Yep.
I was talking to a sister just a couple days ago, and I think the fire has kind of went out in the meetings. She went to another hall. I asked her how the meetings were going, and she went to my mom's old hall, and she said it's kind of died down. And she went to the other one where it was actually merged together 3 or 4 years back, and she said she didn't see half the people she expected to see because they were on Zoom. So I think that a little initial burst they've had with the meeting, I think that's dropped off. It's dropped off where I'm at anyway.
Oh yeah, it has. It has, Chewy. No, I get stories about that tonight too. Go ahead, we get another brother on there. Thank you, Chewy. Go ahead, brother.
I wanted to chime in. I guess it was a little earlier, but in terms of Watchtower and leadership, there's a really weird disdain they have for things like all the stuff about disaster preparedness and preparing for this and that. And I said during a meeting once, I said, hey, go to the FDA or FDA disaster preparedness websites. They got guides, lots of videos, and all that stuff put out by the government to help inform people what to do. And you could hear a pin drop after I said that. It's like no one really wants the government to take care of the problems. They want to blame it. And another incident I'm going to share this because I can't get where it is. Was that during the whole COVID thing, during the first year with Trump, there was actually a program of churches that was like farmed families, and it was distributed through churches. And the brothers, they couldn't hold their noses higher, when they were handing us these boxes of food. Actually it was pretty good groceries, onions, apples, all that commodity stuff. And the other time they're like calling us half-heartedly saying, oh, do you want this? And it's like, yeah, I got a job, run out of money. Yes, I want it. Okay, just leave it at the door if you want to do it, and then run away as fast as you can. Anyway, so it's like they don't really want solutions. They want to whine about problems and ramp up their anxiety.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I'm with you 100%. Now, are you new here? It sounds. Have I talked with you before?
No, actually, I call in like maybe once a month. So,
well, glad to have you talk up for the first time. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Always good to hear from new ones. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Well, there you go. There's a brother right there coming in. Boy, more and more people are leaving the Watchtower, and that's what we like, right? Well, I think, does someone want to say something before we move to the next topic? I guess not. All right, let's talk about this. I get reports all week long. This is like a news clearinghouse where it's JW World News, and been doing it for so many years. People send me articles all day long, all week long on Facebook Messenger and emailing me and even calling me. And so I've been getting reports here concerning lying. There appears to be many Jehovah's Witnesses lying about COVID in their kingdom halls. And they're writing me and telling me that, there's people in the kingdom halls that are coming down with COVID, but nobody wants to admit it. So I can really imagine this is happening. I don't think these people are making this up. But what they are doing is there's many elders that, they're being cornered by the brothers and sisters and asked, does anyone have COVID? Oh, no, well, we don't really. No problem here. So, this is what we got. We got to have someone mute their phone out there. Okay, that would be good. So anyways, we got the congregation, we got the elders lying, and some information I got here this week that during the meeting just a week ago, there was an outbreak. You're going to have to mute your phone. Do you want to say something, sister? Go ahead and mute your phone. Hit *6 on your telephone pad. That way we won't hear you. All right. So anyways, so we have outbreaks of COVID taking place in kingdom halls around the world, really. But I'm going to have to get back here and mute this person here because they're making a lot of noise in the background, and that's what goes on here all the time at the 6 screen. So let me just mute what's happening here. We get a lot of people that stay unmuted, and then we get background noise. And it's very irritating to the people listening in, as well as, see, the way it works is when you call in, you use *6. Now, I want you to make a mental note of this or write it down on a piece of paper. *6, you can talk. When you're done talking, hit *6 again. It's that easy. It's that easy. And boy, it makes my job, as I say, so much easier. So be aware of that. Be aware of it, please. I know it can happen by mistake. So I'm not trying to beat up on anybody, but boy, I'll tell you what, as we get more and more people coming in, it gets worse. So anyways, what we have here is many kingdom halls during meetings. They're saying that they're not really having COVID breakout. It seems unusual because, I mean, people are still getting COVID. In fact, some information coming into me this week was saying that they had firsthand information that 2 people who sat together at the first meeting back both tested positive the very next day for COVID. So, you know, you say to yourself, how is it that they're not going to let the other people know about it? That this doesn't make any sense. As a matter of fact, even more information came into me this week, and it was concerning. Now, listen to this one. There was actually a death here. Someone actually died from getting COVID. Back in 2020 March, going back a year or so when COVID first came out, in the back room, the sister went back because she thought it was safe to sit in the back room. And she was with another older sister who was actually positive herself. And she gave it to this sister who went back and sat with her. And she came home, she gave it to her husband, a non-Jehovah's Witness man. And 2 weeks later, her husband died. So, you know, kingdom halls aren't exempt from COVID. But now what we're hearing, in fact, one meeting they had last week, an elder in the middle of the meeting, during a part that he said that Jehovah has protected our congregation because no one has gotten sick. So now when no one gets sick, Jehovah is watching over them. And this wasn't exactly true. This wasn't exactly true. That congregation, from what I have coming into the 6 screens, someone did have COVID, and an elder and that active person actually died, but no one was, the elder was so eager to say, no problems here. Jehovah's protecting us. Well, this is all something to bear in mind. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, you like to have people up front with you. So if you go to the meeting and they're all saying, no problems here, maybe you should do a little more snooping around. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but has anyone been to the meetings and heard about that at all? If you have, I'd like to hear from you. Have you gone, anybody out there, a PME, physically in, mentally in, that would like to speak up? Or how about even a POMO, PMO? Would you like to speak up and tell us if you've been to the meetings? Go ahead.
Hi, it's Annie from Montreal. I was actually, sorry, I'm on the wrong subject, I guess. I'm neither any of those things. What is the expression for someone who's been gone for like 20 plus years or 30 plus years? Completely out?
What is it?
I don't know what the term is for someone who's left 30 years ago. How would you describe?
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's an acronym for someone like that. Is that how long you've been out, Annie?
Yep. And I guess they call it dirty old apostates or something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know what they would call it, but maybe somebody could be quick on their feet and come up with an acronym for us.
Well, I had a couple of thoughts, but it was the previous subject where, if I may just quickly say something about that, about their fear-mongering. When I came to Canada, it so happens that just before we got here, there was a hurricane on the ocean. And just in connection with what the gentleman before me said, you know, like, I don't remember exactly how he put it, but, you know, the captain of the ship will always, you know, be the responsible one and be responsible. And he wouldn't go and scare people, you know, the way Watchtower does. And our captain at the time, that's exactly what he did. He stayed on deck all night long. He tried to calm us down, the passengers. We were only a few, but yeah, and we were lucky, of course. The hurricane changed directions and we made it. But that was, it just reminded me of that. You know, if it was such a Christian and loving organization as they claim, they wouldn't be doing any fear mongering. You know, that's my opinion. You know, they would. I believe that a really Christian congregation would actually do the opposite of fear mongering. So basically, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's a good comment, Annie. That's a darn good comment. Yeah, you would think that, you know, they have Jehovah's direction. They're the only channel of truth on the planet. That you think they would have a real strong person at the helm controlling this, but it appears to be very weak. It seems to me the Watchtower. I mean, I often think of a ship too. When the ship would sink, you know, the captain would be the last one off. But if it's a Jehovah's Witness ship, the Jehovah's Witness elders will be the first ones off the ship. They will let everybody else sink with it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I lost my train of thought there. But so anyway, that's just what I wanted to say, basically. You know, and fear mongering. How is that Christian in any way? Anyway, like you know, the Bible talks about love, and you know, Jesus was all about love. And what about the faith? You know, people, the Israelites walked in faith when they were in those various situations. So where's their faith? They're not giving the people like the JWs any strong faith, you know, like tools to have extra faith. No, instead they scare the living daylights out of them.
Absolutely. Well, that's what they do, Annie. That's what they do. Well, thank you very much for your comment. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Don't be a stranger now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I just want to let people know, listening in on YouTube, that we do get Watchtower Bethel lights. I believe that's who's doing this. And they put out pretty raunchy statements on our YouTube comments. So I just removed them. So don't pay any attention to them. But well, what it is, look at the Watchtower. They're on our case. And then they watch all of the apostates. Don't think they don't. And especially when you have a live program, they can come in here and they like to disrupt it. And these people are actually commissioned by the Watchtower to do this. They have been commissioned to watch what we say here at the Six Screens. We're on their radar. So they send these trolls in and they start putting up, websites, pornographic websites and what have you. So these Bethelites, they on Saturday night, they get drunk, they get drinking, and they think they can have some fun with the Six Screens. But this has been going on for many, many years. So just pay no attention to it. I did erase them. I try to look at everything here. I can't. So sorry I didn't get in there faster, but we have got them off. All right, you're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want you talking about. But, we talk about it, and you guys like to talk about it too, right? Well, what's the fascination? Well, what is the obsession? I often ask myself that question. You say, man, Rick, can I just go on and be a regular Joe and go out on a Saturday night and go do something? No, I feel like I got to be right here at the helm, right at the control panel. I feel like we have to just get the word out. We're here because you're here. We've been doing this 16 years. I know I told you before, I don't want to be redundant, but we have never missed. We've done 833 programs. I don't want to be redundant, but that's just with JW World News. And the thing is, we're here because you're here. Many witnesses that were getting out came here, they got what they needed, they left, and we never hear from them again. But that's all they did. They come in here, they wanted to make sure that other people were thinking the same thing, that the Watchtower is evil and wrong. And that's what they've done. So we're done. Our mission is working. We're getting people out of this silly organization. But it would be good if we get people to leave the organization and not leave God behind. Yeah, we do that on Sundays, not tomorrow, but every other Sunday. Would love to have people leave the organization and still have a love for God. But many people don't. It's sad. But anyways, that's all right. I don't preach on Saturday nights. And I love all of the people that are calling in. And we have a good time here every Saturday night. But, right now, a lot of people, as we all know, are leaving the Watchtower. And we're saying, well, what's causing it? Well, what is really the major reason why people are leaving the organization right now? Well, I'm sure you could all think of something. I know my wife here, Susan, for a while, she ran what we call the Six Screens hotline. And then she got sick and she couldn't. But anyway, she's going to go back doing that when she can. But one of the biggest problems that people leave the Watchtower and why they leave the Watchtower, according to when she used to run that hotline, and she got upwards of 8, 9, sometimes 10 calls a day on people leaving the Watchtower and just wanted to talk to someone. And the biggest reason, this would have been back in 2013, 2014, the biggest reason why they were leaving back then is because of no love. There was no love. And people are leaving the organization even today when we have people speak up here live on the Six Screens. They say the same thing. There's no love in the organization. So that's one reason. There are other reasons. Others leave because they find out about the child molestation and all the sexual perverts. That makes people leave, right? Other people leave because they just don't believe in Armageddon anymore like they did before. They say, well, I've been living so long now, where's Armageddon? And that brings me to the next news article. In fact, the next news article has to do with a generation. Yes. And I think when you stop and think of the generation and the 1914 predictions and thoughts around 1914, that right now, I believe, is one of the biggest reasons in many years, as there's been big decrease, less members in the organization, is because of it. So we have to talk about the generation. And many of us remain Jehovah's Witnesses because the generation, as we all believed, it was a generation that would not pass away until all these things happen, including the Great Tribulation and Armageddon itself. Well, what generation was that? Well, that was a generation that was living during 1914. And we were taught as witnesses that none of these would die before Armageddon came. But you know something? They were wrong, right? They were wrong. 1914 is a long time ago. And they all died off, all of them. And so consequently, the Watchtower's in a pickle. So they have to keep changing the generations. And I'm gonna play a little clip of David Splain. You guys all heard about the overlapping generation, the contemporaneous generation. This is all malarkey. And this all came about because they didn't know what to do with the 1914 generation. So they had to put all kinds of spin on it and confuse everybody. But we're going to play a little clip in a little while. I want you to at least listen to it. But I want to say this. The key factor in the growth of the number of Jehovah's Witnesses, one of the reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses continue to grow, even though there's a lot leaving, but they still do continue to grow. And what is that? What's causing them to grow? It's the promise that this system will end at any moment. That's the clincher. That's the clincher. This system is going to end at any moment. And the Watchtower has to keep suggesting that. They got to keep promulgating that. They got to beat it into your head. So the shorter the expected time left, the higher the growth in the witnesses. Well, that's a fact. Think about it. boy, when this time seems really reduced, more people grow, the organization grows. And that was evident in 9/11 back in 2001. You know, when those planes hit the towers in New York, do you know there was a whole lot of people that went back to Jehovah? They thought Armageddon was right around the corner. And then even with COVID in 2020, when COVID hit, many people went back to the organization thinking, this is it. This is the pandemic. This is it. This is what the witnesses have been talking about. I better go join them again. So always remember, the shorter the expected time, the higher the growth. Now, the thing to bear in mind here is that they still do grow because of this. You would think that many people would be attuned to it and understand that, hey, they've been pulling this for years, but they keep bringing forth this generation, and they have to keep putting a different spin on the generation. And as you look at it respectively, it's remarkable to see the number of changes that the Watchtowers made in their generation teaching. As a matter of fact, they seem to change it every decade. There's a new understanding of it, because the thing is, a lot of people are saying, where is it? Where is it? So they got to change. They move the goalpost. That's what they call it. That's what you would call it, anyone criticizing the Watchtower, is the fact that they keep moving the goalpost. We keep getting where, you know, we should be getting a point here, Armageddon should be here, but we'll move it back a little bit. Watchtower has promoted many different and contradictory explanations of the generation. Yes, that they have done. People have made critical life choices and decisions on the understanding that Armageddon would arrive tomorrow. It's here. You see this pencil? As I remember one district overseer, I just got to get some, hold on one second, folks. We got some people in here spamming us tonight, so I got to block these users. These are drunken Bethelites, like I say, so just pay no attention to them. I try to multitask here. I'm watching 4 different networks that we're broadcasting on. So anyways, that's what's going on there. But anyways, crucial life decisions and choices have been made by people that think that Armageddon was just going to be around the corner. And I remember that district overseer, he took a pencil out of his pocket and he said at a district convention, he said, see this pencil? See this pencil? He says, do you know something? See this? He says, we are right here, right at the point. That's when Armageddon's coming, and we are there. Hey, that was back in the 1960s. So, you know, that's what keeps people in. And for many decades, it was plainly stated that Armageddon would come while people born prior to 1914 were still alive. It never came. And here we are, and there's many, many older brothers and sisters that have put all their faith in the Watchtower, and they're getting old. They're getting in their 70s, their 80s, and even 90s, still waiting for Armageddon. Well, in 1995, I'm sure the Watchtower was being plagued by people saying, well, when's it coming? You said that all these old people would still be alive. They're all leaving. And what's up with that? They're all dying. So in 1995, the Jehovah's Witness organization Watchtower, they had to come up with some new tricks. And they do have a bag of tricks. But they had to come up with some new tricks. In 1995, they come up with this idea of contemporaries. Anyone living at the time. See, people, originally it was people born before 1914, you know, they wouldn't die off before Armageddon. So they all died off. So now they had to say, well, wait a minute. Maybe this would include people who were living at the time of those that were still alive, the anointed, not just anointed ones, but the generation that was alive right after 1914 and throughout years to come. maybe they could just be contemporaries. That's what the Watchtower says. Well, they're living at the same time as these people, so we'll just include them as a member of the generation. So they did that, and they pulled it off pretty flawlessly, even though witnesses till this day couldn't explain it to you. But I have to go with 2010. There was an anointed brother, and his name was John Barr. And at the annual meeting, now we all know Brother Barr. Many people on here probably even knew of him, and he gave talks. But Brother Barr was a pretty big official. Brother Barr, that is, was a pretty big official with the Watchtower. And in 2010, he presented a new understanding of the generation. Now, back then in 2010, Brother Barr was 97 years old. And as he delivered his talk, he was the last of the governing body that was born before 1914. So that was in 2010. He was 97. Here we are in the year, well, 22 years later, right? So here we are in 2022. Brother Barr's long gone. The generation's long gone. But what he did in this talk, this is interesting. He explained that the generation, and he gave this talk. Well, hold on one second, folks. We keep getting people coming in. I'm blocking these people, and for some odd reason, they keep coming in. So just bear with me. They're trying to put pornographic stuff up here on our YouTube feed. That's all I can do. I just have to watch for it. So anyways, get back to this Brother Barr talk. He read some comments from Jesus. And what he was reading is that Jesus evidently meant that the lives of the anointed one who were on hand were also to have lives of anointed ones that he would now put in what they call the overlapping generation. Remember that? The overlapping generation. So in other words, let me put it this way to you. Brother Barr was born prior to 1914. Brother Barr died in 1997, was it? Okay. So anyways, he was still alive in the 90s. So what happened is, in order to keep this generation thought alive, what Brother Barr suggested is that anointed ones that knew him and who knew of the anointed ones, and at least one, he was one that was born prior to 1914, that they would be overlapping, that their lives would overlap Brother Barr's life, and they would be the ones to see the start of the Great Tribulation. I mean, crazy, isn't it? But that's exactly what they did to try to pull this foolishness off. So it's nutty when you think about it. It sounds convoluted when you think about it, but it's pretty easy to understand. Now, I'm going to play you a little clip, and I'm going to bring you right up to speed on the newest understanding of the generation. And that was just given a while back, a year or two ago. And let's bring that up to speed. I want you to see this. And this is Brother Splain. Let me just go back to where the clip is. We're going to put it up here so we can see it on YouTube. And you'll also hear it. Let me just get in here and get it first, folks. So just give me a second, and we'll get right to it. But boy, I'm so glad you guys are coming in here tonight, because I'll tell you what, it's very, very fascinating to have so many people coming in on a Saturday night. It's just absolutely great that we see so many people getting out of the Watchtower and coming in. We're going to put that clip up. I want you to hear the newest information, and you'll be able to see exactly what the Watchtower is now saying about the generation. You know, I counted 16 times the Watchtower since its inception back in 140 years ago. Since their inception, they changed a generation 16 times. 16 times. So let me just see if I can't get the right box here up, and we'll get it up. And Brother Splain, I say, Brother Splain. So let's share this. Let's get Brother Splain up, and there he is right there. Let me just get a big screen so you can see it. And let me just make sure that you guys, and we'll hold on one second, make sure we We got it up here on StreamYard. Yeah, you guys can see it. So let me just get in here and make the screen bigger. You're on Facebook, you're seeing it too. But if you're on our other networks, you'll hear it. You'll hear what Brother Splain is saying. So let's start right here. I want you to listen intently. He's talking about this new generation and what the meaning is, and see if you guys can't understand it, or I'll try to help you understand it. Because most witnesses don't even know what this generation, the new meaning is. Let's listen in.
But what did it all mean? Only those with spiritual discernment would draw the conclusion, as Jesus said, that he is near at the doors. Now here's the point. In 1914, who were the only ones who saw these various aspects of the sign and drew the right conclusion that something invisible was occurring? Only the anointed. So, this generation is made up of anointed ones who see the sign and have the spiritual discernment to draw the proper conclusion about the sign. Now, one of those who saw the sign and understood what it meant was Brother Frederick Franz. Brother Franz was born in 1893, and he was baptized in November of 1913. So, as one of the Lord's anointed in 1914, he saw the sign, and he was able to understand its meaning. There were other anointed ones who also saw the sign and understood its meaning. Joseph Rutherford, A.H. Macmillan, W.E. Van Ambra. After 1914, others were anointed with Holy Spirit. These include such well-known brothers as Nathan Knorr, Lyman Swingle.
Just stop right there. So he's talking about, first of all, he brought up individuals, including Franz, that was born prior to 1914, but was still alive in 1914. And now he's saying they were anointed. There was many that were alive. They were anointed prior to 1914 coming. 1914 came, they were still alive. But they were getting older. They were going to die off at any time. They were getting that old. So now what the Watchtower did, at least what Splain here is explaining, is that those born after 1914, Brother Knorr would be one of them. They would also now be part of this generation. Listen to him.
Grant Suter, Milton Henschel, and George Genghis. They were anointed contemporaries of some in the first group. So really, these brothers make up part of the second group of the generation. That is significant, and we'll come back to it in a moment. Would you like an easy way to keep the generation straight?
Yes, I
An
would.
easy way is to consider the situation of Brother Fred W. Franz. Now, you'll see that he's FWF on the chart. Now, as we said before, Brother Franz was born in 1893. He was baptized in November of 1913. So, as one of the Lord's anointed in 1914, he saw the sign and he understood what the sign meant. Now, Brother Franz lived a long life. He finished his earthly course at 99 years of age in 1992. Now, do you know of many who were of the anointed in 1914 and who outlived Brother Franz? There may have been some, but not many. Now, just for the sake of argument, suppose that we assume that Brother Franz was the last of that first group of anointed ones. That is, the group of anointed ones who were anointed in 1914, who saw the sign, and then continued serving faithfully. Now, we're not saying Brother Franz was. We just don't know. But for the sake of argument, let's suppose. In order to be part of this generation, someone would have had to have been anointed before 1992, because he would have to have been a contemporary of some of the first group. Now, again, we're not saying that Brother Franz was the last of this group, but we're just using this for the sake of argument as a point of reference. Anyone anointed after 1992 would be of the anointed, but he would not be part of this generation. And Jesus said, this generation will not pass away until all these things happen. Are you beginning to see how this all connects with the urgency of our times? Someone might say, we know that some of the anointed will be on the earth when the Great Tribulation breaks out, but who's to say that Jehovah won't be anointing more people years from now? And then they'll be reading about us in some updated version of the Proclaimer's book. Well, the answer is simple. Anyone anointed years from now would not have been a contemporary of those of the first group of anointed ones, because they have passed off the scene. And Jesus said, this generation will not pass away until all these things happen. They would not have been part of the generation. Now, those of the second group of anointed ones are getting older. This is especially clear when you consider who make up the second group. We saw some pictures of those who made up the second group, but in addition, there are Carl Klein, John Barr, Albert Schroeder. All of the current members of the governing body are also part of this generation, and some of us are showing our age. So, brothers, we are indeed living deep in the time of the end. Now is no time for any of us to get weary. So let's all heed Jesus' counsel, the counsel found at Matthew 24:42. Keep on the watch, therefore, because you do not know on what day your Lord is coming.
All right, enough of that. So anyways, just so you guys can kind of get a little feel for what Splain was talking about, and most witnesses don't get it. It's very convoluted. It's ambiguous. But what you have here, and what he said here, is that if you are an anointed one that was born prior to 1992, that you would be part of this generation. So that would include right now the governing body members, Loesch, Hurd, Splain himself, Jackson. All of those that are governing body members now would be part of that generation. So this creates a sense of urgency. When you see these old codgers, they look like they all just escaped from a nursing home. They look like they're going to die any minute. So this creates a sense of urgency in the mind of the witness. Well, they might be going pretty soon, but the Bible does say, the generation teaching has always been that all this generation would not die off before the end. So this creates a sense of urgency. Look, they look old. They're going to be dying, but Armageddon's going to be here before they do. So this is how the Watchtower has done it, constantly moving the goalposts. And so what you got here now, basically it's of an anointed one, knew of an anointed one. They could become part of the generation. It's an overlapping generation, they call it. I call it serial overlapping, because generally, and for the most part, it could change. I mean, Watchtower could come back when these guys are all gone and say, well, it was serial overlapping. It was, we had the date wrong of 1992 for one to be of this generation. We learned it was a later date, and this could go on forever. So it's obvious that the Watchtower is sticking to this generation, sticking to 1914. They have to keep people in the organization. What a scam, right? So I wanted to bring that up. I know it's very confusing to people, but don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about
brother,
it.
I saw a sign, and it was a true prophecy. They were right about it. And it said, religion is a snare and a racket.
You got that one right, Pixie. But how could you possibly keep up with 16 times? I was going to mention 6 here tonight, but we don't have time. So I just mentioned the 3.
Rick?
Yeah, Biggie. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, you can't keep up with it. It's just BS. It's glue. I was wondering how they were going to get out of it, because they clearly said a generation was 60 or 70 years, 80 years at max, and we would see this new order, that they would lead us in. They were going to lead us in. And that changed. The light got brighter and it turned into the overlapping. So I was wondering, because I asked my uncle, my uncle's a Bethelite, and I asked him years ago when my mom died, I said, you know, what happened to the generation prophecy? What happened to the overlapping? And he said, it's the same prophecy. And I'm thinking, how do you guys go along with this psychobabble? These self-proclaimed narcissists that make shit up as they go, Rick. It's sickening. It's toxic. Even when I listen to it, I'm like, these are serial minds. They're psychopaths that love to control people. Why would you string these people along, Rick? What would be in your mind to string people along, to scare people to death? These people don't care. It's like they're slaves. Well, you've got to be spiritually discerning to understand. Actually, you've got to be anointed. Well, actually, you've got to be anointed of the first generation of anointed. And then the second generation. Of course, all this has to happen before the end. This, you know, it's like this psycho, Rick, these guys, I hope the listeners understand. We waited for that end in the generation. My dad waited for 75. They lied. I waited for the generation prophecy, 70 or 80 years, preaching, Paradise Book, Revelation book. And then it changed to overlapping, and I got out of there. And I'm just wondering, these twisted minds, they never stop. They do not want to take the reins off these bridles, off these slaves they have. They call them good-for-nothing slaves if they could only see what we see outside, that they're bridled by fear. They're controlled. And they're manipulated, and they're told to eat whatever food Watchtower gives them. We're the spiritual channel. We're going to feed you now. Just gobble it up and don't think about it. We're spiritually discerning. Isn't it crazy? I mean, I just sit here and I was listening to it, and I was like, this guy is a psycho. And I think, what's his intention? Is he getting a fat-ass check? I mean, what, has he sold his soul for soup? What the hell?
Well, no, you're right, Dan. Well, I love your passion.
Sorry, I went off.
No,
Sorry,
it's okay.
sorry,
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it is.
Birthright. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. So anyways, I mean, a lot of us bought into it, but many of us started distancing. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons many people have. You know, I wanted to bring up tonight, too. It kind of goes along with this. I wanted to bring up, I'll tell you, one of the most infamous publications ever published in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses that we can nail them on, that we can bring them to the altar on, if you want to go with that, is a 1974 Kingdom Ministry. Well, let me put a picture of it up here on, well, there it is there. You can't really read it there, but I'm gonna read it to you. I'm going to read it to you. And you guys remember the Kingdom Ministry. Remember, that's the little circular, like little newspaper we used to get as witnesses. And it was our own little private little news reader. Well, then back in 1974, there was a Kingdom Ministry article, How Are You Using Your Life? That was the article. And I won't read the whole thing here, but I will read a portion of it. It said, should we not delay be imitating his example, especially since we have a short time left now in which to complete the preaching work? So they're saying in 1974, we have a short time left to complete the preaching work. Yes, the end of this system is so very near. Is that not reason to increase our activity? Friends, I want you to know there were tons of Jehovah's Witnesses that quit their job. They went into the full-time pioneer work because of this particular article in the KM. But now it even gets worse. It gets worse. Listen to this. Does that not warm our hearts? You know, that people are becoming pioneers. They want to spend the remaining years they have left in the service work. It says, reports are heard of brothers selling their homes and property and planning to finish out the rest of their days in this old system in the pioneer service. Certainly, this is a fine way to spend the short time remaining before the wicked world ends. I know this article by heart because I had a friend that lived not too far from me, and he had a beautiful house in a really nice neighborhood. And he read this. He read this in the 1974 KM. He sold his house. He got the money from that. And certainly real estate's worth it. The guy would probably be a multimillionaire today. But he sold his house then in 74. He was going to move to where the need was great. He moved way out in the middle of the cornfields of Iowa. I don't know where it was, but it was a real rural area. And he got stuck out there. He used up all of his money from what I've heard. And from what I heard too, he wanted to even come back, but he couldn't. He was stuck in the cornfields of Iowa because he wanted to get in the preaching work before the end. Well, many of us probably knew of people that did that. I knew this man personally. And you guys probably know people too that did that. And they were making preparation for the end. And they were doing things that were totally ridiculous, selling houses, quitting their job. And, so this brings me to the next thought. A lot of witnesses right now, sad to say, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses have got old. Many of them have even left the organization, but they never really got a good job, right? Because they listened to this cockamamie 1974 Kingdom Ministry, and they put all of their heart and soul into the preaching work for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And today, many of them are broke, sad to say. They have no money. So I'm going to tell you what's going on in many congregations, and people are giving me information on this. It's amazing. In fact, some of the things I'm hearing here is that there was one woman who had a 401k. This is just recently, and she had a good chunk of money in her 401. But, she figured, well, Armageddon's coming here shortly, so I'm just going to kind of start taking money out of it. And you're being taxed like 10% if you start taking money out of a 401k. So she's taking it out, and she was feeling guilty that she had this money, and there was so many Jehovah's Witnesses in her Kingdom Hall that didn't have much, so she was going to share it with them before Armageddon comes. I mean, this is the type thinking. I mean, there's no harm in helping someone, but to take money out of your 401k, your retirement money, and say, well, Armageddon's coming anyways, I just might as well start giving my money away and trying to help people. Now, this is really disgusting, isn't it? So when you stop and think about it, this is happening. As a matter of fact, there's even one man I got information from, and he had a business. And in his business, he made pretty good money, but he went to school. He got educated. And even back in the 1960s and 70s, when, even right up till this day, the Watchtower was saying, don't go to school, don't get a good career, spend your life, spend your whole feelings around the Watchtower. Why would you go out looking for bigger and better? So he went to school, he went to college, he got an education, and now he's still a witness. So he's in the congregation, and he has brothers and sisters coming up to him and telling him that he should share his wealth with them. Now, such nerve, he says. These witnesses have a lot of nerve doing this. He says when he was working long hours, making his business work together and going to school, all of them were coming to him and saying, well, why are you doing all of this? Armageddon's coming. But now these are the same ones that are looking for a handout. People are in a situation, many witnesses, because of the teachings of the Watchtower, they are in a pickle. And, the Watchtower has always condemned this, and so many people fell for it. And consequently, look at the problems they're in today. And this is going on right now. This is one of the things that's going on in the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Halls. And I'm not just saying isolated. This is happening quite a bit. People are looking for money from those that have it. And, what would you do? And some of the witnesses are actually telling the people that have a few extra bucks, they're saying it's your obligation. It's your obligation to help your brother. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? What do you think? Any comments at all? Go ahead. You're on.
They act
Yeah, go ahead.
little communist country like you have to share with them, and that is not true. If you made it, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, you don't mind helping a little bit. If you have a good little chunk, you'll help the brothers and sisters, your friends. But, for them to come up and say it's your obligation, it's your...
I ran across some of that, and I probably had to tell them I don't have it.
Yeah. Well, Pixie...
Hey, Rick,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan.
When I was in there, Rick, I had an elder come over, him and his family, and they sat in my living room and said they needed some money. And I'm thinking, what do you want to do with me? They wanted a couple $150. And they were a pioneer and elder. And I said, well, I'll think about it. And he told me flat out, you are under obligation to help me. And he read scriptures to me. And I never gave it to him. But it was like, you know what I mean? I'm sure they're going to have to do something like this because they're going to have a pandemic of people who are broke because they really have given everything to Jehovah. They've given their time, their education. When I popped out of there, I was so confused. I didn't know left from right. I hit the ground and I didn't know where I was going. I mean, I was a basket case. And so can you imagine these people at this age? I mean, some of the older ones, just faint out of fear, the fear Watchtower is putting on them, and then not having the means because Rick, the end was going to save them. 75 was going to save them. My dad gave up everything for 75. And when 75 passed, he moved into some kind of depression that we didn't understand, and he died not long after, but he lost hope. And I just think all these generations going by, these older people are probably really getting concerned. And the Watchtower's not going to give nothing. They're going to send them to their own people and say, like you just talked about, get some money from them. It's a good point.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what seems to be going on right now in many congregations and the whole witness world. But yet at the same time, and then this is what's really appalling, is the Watchtower organization itself has millions and billions of dollars. And, they think like any normal church would, people fall through the cracks. They can't pay their electric bill. They might have a hospital bill. They'll actually dip into their coffers and pay for it. That never happens in the Watchtower. I know we talk about this all the time, but it never happens in the Watchtower.
Rick, I was thinking about what you were saying earlier about, the crises and things that are happening. And they're talking about the houses being burnt down and, all this stuff happening and the military and all this stuff. And what was I going to say about that? Oh, the thought I was going to say is, they say trying to save the world, they're trying to preach to the world, they're trying to help people, come to a knowledge of Jehovah. But the thing you said earlier really hit me, that I have never heard them pray for the world. I've never heard them say, let's say a prayer for all those in Ukraine, not just the brothers, but those in Ukraine, because you're preaching to those. But here's the conundrum. They said at the Watchtower magazine not long ago that Jehovah, now they're the voice of Jehovah, they said Jehovah is already executed judgment on the world and on Babylon the Great. So why preach to them? Why go and preach? They said Jehovah's already executed judgment. So I think that's why they're not praying, because I'm not trying to be biblical, but it says Jesus died for the world. He came here, so for the whole world's sake. And so if we were following that spirit, that truth, then it seems like we would be praying for the world. We would be praying for Ukraine. We would be praying for Russia because they're being misled or whatever. We'd be praying for this, for the whole world. Our prayers would be going out for the world, and they don't do that. They only take care, they don't even take care of their own. But all they say is, we're special, we're separate, Jehovah's protecting us, Jehovah's taking us out. There's nothing for anybody else out there. Where's the love? Where's the love they say they have? They don't have it. That's why they keep them in their head. That's why they keep them in fear. That's why they keep pumping the fear. It's dope for the mind. They keep them out of their heart. Because, man, like your heart said, Rick, I pray for those guys over there. I pray for Russia. I pray that this stuff stop, the insanity stop. That's what a heart does. But they're intent on keeping that mind locked into fear and keeping the dope going and keeping these guys doped up on fear. It's really sad, Rick.
Well, it is sad. It is sad, Dan, but they keep trapping more and more people. And people don't realize how dangerous this organization is. And they still do entrap people. And that's why we do this program, to try to get people to listen in. They're searching the internet. And that can be the great equalizer, so they can get the other side of the story, because they're only getting the side of the story from the Watchtower.
Yeah,
Well,
and you know something too? The young people are coming out, Rick. You said something last week. You said the young people are smarter. And I'm starting to listen to these young people. And I mean, they are really connected. They're like, I'm not following those old fools. Or, you know, I'm not buying into their pandemic BS. I'm not putting on a mask because, you know, Tony Morris has put on a mask. I mean, they're doing their own thing. And wait till you hear the statistics tonight on the show. What this lady said, that she feels like the statistics are of people starting not to listen to the governing body. They're saying, no, we don't trust them. It's a large number. So anyway, that'll be on a little bit.
Oh, very good, Dan. Looking forward to the program coming on. Now, if anyone would like to come in and get their 15 minutes of broadcasting in, if there's anyone would like to fill.
Hey, Rick, how you doing? I really enjoy your program. I just wanted to say that I've seen some pretty strange things from these people. I used to live in an apartment out in Mastic, Long Island, on Illinois Avenue, and I've seen them use electric Ouija boards out there. There's a halfway house across the street. They would fry those guys. They threw a squirrel's nest at me.
Oh, yeah.
It's Mastic, Long Island, on Illinois Avenue, down by the reservation. There's a witch cabin house over there.
Oh, you're right. It's terrible. No, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Go ahead. We got some others want to speak up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Hi, Rick.
Yes.
I'm a survivor of child abuse from a witness Bible study, my Bible study conductor. And I was a fatherless boy. My mother was a widow. And the Bible clearly said, take care of those people. And they never did a thing. And as we grew up, we gave every little nickel that we had to the congregation. We helped build their kingdom halls. Our whole community was poor. And, they turned around, eventually sold the kingdom hall that all of us built to a Pentecostal church, and took the money and did whatever they wanted to. And I could tell you of years and years of misappropriation of funds, and not even taking care of their own. And now today, for that brother to say, there's more going out than there is coming in. Well, he never tells you how much they had to start with and how poorly they appropriated the money that they had. If they told you that, it would be a whole different story.
Well, there you have it, brother. No, thank you. Now, are you new here? I think I've talked.
Rick, I'm brand new. I haven't been able to get in for some reason. They asked for a code, which I didn't have, but tonight I got in, and I've got 60 years of experience of everything in the organization. I could talk on every topic that you bring up. It brings back some horrible memories and very few good ones. I'm one who felt that the organization had a chance before the elder arrangement in '72, and I think that's what ruined the organization. There wasn't a chance after that, because you had men who could hide behind other men, throw their stones, jump behind the trees, and you never knew who was against you, who was for you. But nonetheless, I would like to talk periodically if the listeners and you would like to hear. The question I have for you is, and then I'll go, do you remember the days when the good news of the kingdom was the most important thing and not the virtual Armageddon that we have now? You probably remember those days.
Oh, sure. No, I do. I'm 73, and I do remember those days. And that was the most important thing, as it was. But everything's been convoluted. And, we're going to get you on here again where we can spend a little more time. Well, why don't you write me? Why don't you write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, jwworldnews@gmail.com, and tell me that you were the brother on here tonight. And geez, we can get a hold of you and we'll get you to spend some time. We'll interview you, okay?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. My name is Rick also. So
It is. Well,
will
I'll
be
remember
right.
that. Okay, Rick. Well, very good. You got a good name there, and you sound like you sound
Okay.
like you sound you sound like a very
I
knowledgeable man.
enjoy the show and listen. Look forward to listening to you and other callers.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Well, that's Rick. Yeah, he'll be calling in, and we'll get a hold of him and try to do an interview. Yeah, who wants to speak up? I get some more people coming in the green zone. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
The Watchtower was telling everybody that 1914, Christ came to the earth and investigated all the religions and found out that only Jehovah's Witnesses were doing the right thing. And of course, they covered that up because they said that was 1914 was the year that Armageddon was going to come. And when it didn't come, they said, well, Jesus came. They covered it up. But I would ask, why would Jesus have to leave Jehovah's side and come down to the earth to do an investigation? That would be my question.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question, Dick. You really, when you stop and think about it, I mean, you can ask that in so many of their doctrinal changes, including the generation and so many things. And why would even God allow all this sexual perversion to take place? So it's not God's organization. Good comment, Dick. Thank you very much. Well, I just want to say that there'll be Six Screen Sunday. It's every other Sunday. It's not tomorrow. But if you've left the Watchtower because of theological reasons, we don't talk about it on Saturday night. We don't preach on Saturday night. But every other Sunday, we talk about the theological false teachings in the Watchtower. And you can listen in next Sunday beginning at 1 o'clock. And I know you'll find the programs on Sunday very fascinating as well. Yeah, I want to tell people, too, listening in on YouTube, don't be afraid to, like us on Facebook, share it on Facebook, and don't be afraid to make a comment on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Don't be afraid to do that. And I really would appreciate it, because the more people that listen to these programs, the more people we're going to get out. But I'm not in this for the money, friends. I want you to know that. As a matter of fact, I had a person last week want to send some money to the Six Screens. I told him, don't do it. No, I don't want to make this a money game. When you bring money into the picture, things get messed up. The same thing in the Watchtower. I don't mind doing this on my own dime. So, don't send any money here to the Six Screens. And I'm gonna pull a Russell here. When the money runs out, I guess I'll have to stop doing this. But I'm not gonna ask for money. So don't send any here to the Six Screens. It just convolutes things. But I want to do it because we sincerely want to help everybody out there. Well, another week passed, so we're going on next week. 835 programs, 34 programs we'll be doing. So we're looking forward to that. We've got Heart to Heart coming up next. Now, this is Dan and Angela Clark. Unbelievable. They got a woman coming on tonight. And well, where do you hear her story? She's out. She's flatly out of this organization. She wants to tell you about it. Now, they're coming on here right next. Now, they will be on YouTube. So for people listening on YouTube right now, we'll have to end it. And then in about probably 10 minutes from now, tune back in. They'll be on YouTube. And for those that want to listen to more programming tonight, in fact, all of our programs, we got a great program coming up at 11 o'clock. And that is going to be the Out of the Storm program with Faith. I'm sorry, not Faith, but Gail. I keep calling her Faith, but her name is Gail. And with DeLon. They're coming out of Houston, Texas. They're former Jehovah's Witness, and they have DeAsis. Now, you probably know DeAsis. He was in the roundtable. He had a YouTube video he did with two other Jehovah's Witness, ex-witness men, and he's coming on tonight as Gail and DeLon's guest. Out of the Storm is the name of the program. Starts about 11 o'clock tonight. And then around midnight, somewhere around there, we have Apostle Babe coming in with Healing After the Watchtower. So looking forward to these programs. Now, all of the programs tonight will be on YouTube. So when we do end one program, give us a little time to get the other one set up and come on back in. And if not, if you don't want to watch it on YouTube, go to 6screensofthewatchtower.com. And you can scroll down to where it says Video Suite. You can click that link, put a fictitious name in, and you can listen to The Cows Come Home right there in the Video Suite. All right. So who would like to come in now and fill in for about probably 10 or 15 minutes while I get Dan and Angela on? Anybody out there like to come in and kind of hold the fort?
I'm here, Rick.
Is that you, Anne-Marie?
Oh, somebody else is here?
No, let's go with you, Anne-Marie.
How's
So,
it going?
Anne-Marie, and Dick's with you, Anne-Marie.
Oh, great. I've been spoken with him. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You know, I'm really astounded at the wonderful people that Rick's been able to put on. Really intelligent people that know a lot. And